Right. Hello, everybody. I believe we're live streaming. We'll have some of our folks check that out. And if not, we'll try to do our best to repair it. But it's so good to have everybody come and be with us tonight. Those of you listening by Power Faith Radio, we so much appreciate you. The Georgia group texted me earlier, and they're planning on having about 42 people tonight, Terry. So they're looking forward to what you have prepared for them. And then, so we appreciate that. Also, if you're listening tonight by B'nai Noach Fellowship, we thank you so much for coming this way. And it maybe you're not watching this live stream, but maybe in the future you'll be watching the recording. We want to say we appreciate you being there with and for us. Those of you that are watching tonight, joining us via Simple Walk, we thank you so much as well. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening. Please comment on both those platforms and like the video, and we'll greatly appreciate that. Also, we have tonight South Carolina Noahides. I'm trying to get all this down here, and we appreciate you all coming and spending some time with us tonight as well. And also, last but not least, we bring this by Outreach Noah and our YouTube channel, Outreach Noah. We thank you so much for those of you that are listening and subscribing to that channel. Hit that notification bell that you'll be notified every time a new video goes up. And we're up to 91. I checked earlier, Terry, we're up to 91, and as soon as we cross that 100 mark, we'll get a little bit more quirks. I remember when I first started the radio, Terry, when it got to 50 people, I thought, man, that's awesome. And then it got to 300 people, and I thought, man, that's awesome. And then it got up, but what I didn't realize was I had to pay a little more when more people were listening. but you know, that comes along with the name of the game. Just you know, we're blessed with people that support the radio. Even though we changed the platform somewhat, people still support the radio, and they listen all the time. And there's been times we've been up to 80,000 people, and so that's all around the world. And so, and I can tell, I've got this little globe that turns around, and I can tell when people like, I don't know if I should say this or not, when countries turn off their internet to control. I can tell because it is black out. There's just a spot on the world as it goes by. But there's people that's got the cell phones and all that today. So it's anyway. Without further ado, Terry, how are you? Did you see I can got that to rhyme? I can almost do that every time.
Maybe it's like that Victrola needle.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to tell that story again, Terry.
Oh, no, that was a good one. Anyhow,
right.
Everything's going good. I'm back home, and for the Georgia people, my wife and I, our getaway spot is Jekyll Island. We love Jekyll Island down there, just on the other side of Brunswick, south of Savannah. If you've not been to Jekyll Island, recommend it. It's especially fall and winter. It's not many people down there if you kind of like, having your little bit of space and stuff's got a lot of history there. Just a nice little quiet spot. And it's been about 3 years since we've got to go. And so we were looking forward to it and got to spend a little more time down there and went on the dolphin tour, had an amazing time. The guy that kind of, I guess, did all the talking, he was a retired Navy man. That's what he does in his part-time fun is getting out and doing that. And he's giving us a lot of history of Jekyll and St. Simon, St. Mary's, and Cumberland Island. We were all down there, and we got to see where the river and the Atlantic came together and seen how it was different colors. It's just a good time. If you've never been to Jekyll, I really recommend it. It's just a nice, fun spot.
They sent you a thumbs up, Terry.
There you go. There you go. It's we love it. That's like I said, that's my wife and I. That's our vacation spot when we go to get away. But everything's going good. Glad to be back home and everything. And not bad. Glad to be back at work. That's just work. It's a paycheck. I can figure out how I can just get to live and have the money without having to throw parts in a box all day long.
Terry, I'm looking for the perfect job. I want to come in at 11, leave at 12, and have an hour lunch break.
Hey, let me know when you find that one out. Anyhow,
Well,
yeah, glad to be back. Glad to be back home and everything. So, and I want to thank Scotty for taking last week's class. Did an amazing job, and we're looking forward to when he can do part two of that one. That was a really good class. I've heard a lot of good comments on it. So, Scotty, you about ready for Sadaka?
I am. I would
I know
want
you
to.
got a big list tonight.
I got a big list. Got a big list. We want to thank everybody that's come in with us tonight. Amuella Asher, of course, we call her Yeoman Asher, and Thomas Schaus, and Ronald Dickman, and Wendell Parsons, and Veronica Port, and David Reed. Did I read that right? David Reed. Did I do that right? Ain't I? Okay. And my lovely wife, Annie Helton. Her actual name is Dolores. One day I'll tell you the story. 9 months into our marriage, I lost her in the hospital. But I'll have to tell you that story some other time. And of course, always we have Terry. So we're going to get into our Sadaka time. We have a pretty good sized list. Hold on just a minute. Sorry, I flipped the mic right on when I was getting to the last bit of my cough. So we're going to start. Oh, I'm using this Sadaka box tonight because we've got quite a bit of Sadaka to do, and so that's the Sadaka. We don't know who sent us this, but we appreciate it so much, and we thank you for that. Now, okay, we're going to do birthdays first, so I'm going to try to get through these. Cheryl Rippey had a birthday this week. We're giving Sadaka for. That's Sherry. I'm sorry. That's Sherry Rippey. Also for Moshe Karez, we're giving Sadaka for you tonight. And Aaron Aikens, we're giving Sadaka for you tonight. And also Andrea Jean, giving Sadaka for you tonight, had a birthday this past week. Ethelene Moore had a birthday this past week, and we're giving Sadaka for Ethelene Moore. Now we're going to start our list. We just want to see the Creator bring these people, give them strength, give them healing. And so we're going to start off, as always, tonight, our teacher, Pesach and Shira. Did I pronounce that name correctly?
Yeah, Shira.
Shira Sherbo. We're giving Sadaka for them tonight. Also for Carol St. George. I don't know, Veronica, if you saw her post. She's having some bad difficulties with her eyes, and it's getting worse. So we're giving Sadaka for her tonight. Also, Fran Bascow's aunt, Patty Andrews. We're giving Sadaka for her tonight. And also Rabbi Shlomo Barone. We're giving Sadaka for him tonight. And also Karen and Harold Ori. We're giving Sadaka for them tonight. And also Harold's, let me get down here on the list, Harold's sister, Frida Ori Keaton. I don't know if some of you knew, we earlier this week they talked about some bad sickness that came to her, but she got to come home, and I believe it's either today or tomorrow she's going to get to come home. Karen may be over on one of the groups, and she can give that update, but we've been watching the update on that all week, and so Baruch Hashem, we thank the Creator for moving on that. Also, Mary Parsons. Now, I know, Wendell, you gave us an update just prior to us coming on, but would you give everybody an update on your lovely wife, Mary Parsons?
Yeah, she's been very tired. She's had to miss a couple of days of work because of the fatigue, but she's in her last 4 sessions coming up. So once she gets done with that, then a week or so, and she should be going pretty good.
Okay, great. So we're going to continue to give Sadaka there, Wendell. So thank you for the update. Also, Ronnie Suits. How is Ronnie doing, Terry?
He's doing pretty good. I mean, he has his days he's tired because of like today we had a high pollen count and stuff, and those kind of days makes it a little hard for him to breathe and everything. But other than that, he's doing really well.
Okay, good deal. Also, Amuella, Somebody always sends in $1. This is your dollar. We're putting it in the tzedakah, and that you be blessed. And also Thomas Schaus, same person, always sends you in $1, and so we're giving that. If I can get it in the box, we thank them so much. And also Veronica Port. And as I said here a while back, they're coupling you three together. So I don't know if one of you ought to be upset at the other two, but they're coupling you three together, and so we're giving tzedakah for that. Okay, and also Tina Lyons, we're giving tzedakah for that, for her tonight. Also, Sharon Garland, we're giving tzedakah for Sharon Garland tonight. Also, Ethelene Moore, she was one of the birthday ladies, 86. I think she's 86 years old, and she had a birthday this week, and also she's having some issues, and so we're giving tzedakah for her tonight. Let me get on over here. David Maurice, we're giving tzedakah for David tonight, and also Karen Wheels, we're giving tzedakah for Karen tonight, and also Pam Helton, that's my daughter, giving tzedakah for Pam tonight. The Creator knows the issue there. And also tzedakah for my wife tonight, Dolores Helton. We're almost through with that. And also William Rose family. We're giving tzedakah for the William Rose family tonight. The Creator knows the issue there, so be much in prayer for them. Hold on just a second. Let me get that in there. And then also Stormy Schaus. We're giving tzedakah for Stormy Schaus tonight. Now we have two blessed memories tonight. And the first one I want to do is Jeffrey Lynn Mayfield passed away. They had his going away party, leaving this walk of life party this past week. So we're giving tzedakah and blessed memory of Jeffrey. And then also this next one is special, dear to my heart. We're giving tzedakah for Barbara Dickman. That is Ronald Dickman. That's here. That's his wife. And their anniversary is coming up the 1st of October, Ronald. And so we're giving blessed memory tzedakah for Barbara Dickman. So remember, sometimes we don't see the results of tzedakah. Sometimes we give tzedakah and let me say it this way. Let me say it this way. You don't have to send tzedakah to get anybody's name on this list. Send us the name. We'll put their name on. You don't have to give tzedakah for that. But those of you that know the value of tzedakah, the value of charity, and I feel I want to say, when you give, you're giving from your heart, whether it's in blessed memory or for the healing of or for the birthday of that person. You are contributing charity to their merit. You're giving that charity for on their behalf. And we could go into a long session on that, but we're not going to. That's going to be another class. But we want to let you know that you may not always see the benefit of the tzedakah. You'll feel it, but you may not always see it. And Terry and I could tell you some stories. Some of you others can tell us some stories about the benefits of tzedakah, that sometimes the Creator gives you a glimpse of behind the scenes of how precious $1 can be. And so we just want to thank you, everyone that sent tzedakah in this past week. And we feel that it will change you, it'll change your family, change your community, and together we can change the world. All right, Terry, are you ready to go?
I'm going to try to be.
Okay, I'm gonna get this cleaned up here in front of me, and be prepared to put you on speaker view. Did anybody else have any? Does anybody have any names while we're here before I get this moved over? Um, of Sadako? Nope. Okay. All right, Terry, go ahead.
All righty. That's dangerous having 2 weeks off. You know, I think a lot, and I did a lot of thinking. I was going. It's oh, anyhow, but I do know where I'm going tonight, and it's one that's been kind of long awaited. Can answer some of the questions that we've been getting on some certain subjects tonight. You know, we've been talking about we're going to go into the 7 laws and study them individually. And tonight we're going to begin that process. Again, we've done a like I said, went through a couple of weeks there, kind of a philosophical look at it. Tonight we're going to look at a little bit about we're going to touch where they come from, because that's a question that comes a lot. We're also going to touch about their authority, where that comes from. We'll touch a little bit about that on tonight. But I just kind of want to have a little bit of a talk at first, because when we're getting into these 7 laws, it's not about religion. And I was reading an article by Rabbi Richmond this last week, who used to be, I think it was the director of the Temple Institute, and he's really good one to listen to, just soft spoken. But this was a written article that he had written about the upcoming high day of Rosh Hashanah, which is come and gone for Israel, the day they keep. And he was talking about, you know, the part that the nations play in that. We don't observe the day. We're not commanded to observe the day. They are, but we have a role to play beforehand. But I won't get into that right now. We will do a little more of that this next year. So I'm borrowing a line. If any of you seen what I titled this week, I'm borrowing a line from something he wrote at the toward the end of his article, and that is, "This is what I had in mind." See, the Creator, he made us. He created us human beings, and when he created us, he didn't just do it arbitrarily. He had a plan in mind, a desire in mind. Now, part of that desire is to give us free will, means free choice. And a lot of times we kind of mess his desire up, but that's part of his desire, is we have the choice we have a choice to make. We can choose good or evil. But what he had in mind was a system of human conduct. How he wanted his new creation, the highest part of his creation, the one that's closest to him, because no other part of creation has the free will to choose. Everything else has, even the angels, they're set in stone where they are at. We are not. We're more like a stone tumbling around down in the creek bed every time the wave moves. It seems to be like how we are the leaf in the wind. That's probably a better description. We're kind of like a leaf, in the wind is going to and fro. But what he had in mind was a system of human conduct for his creation. That's all it is. What wasn't in his mind is a plethora of religions that's out there, just one after the other. He doesn't have in his mind for people to join a religion and try to force other people into that religion. That wasn't in his mind. His mind was a set system of human conduct, and that's what the 7 Noahide laws are. It is a set system of human conduct. Now, the 7 is just, there's 7 categories for us in the nations. There are 7 categories. Israel we're going to see here a little bit in a minute. Israel's a different ballgame. They're the priestly nation. They're on a completely different. We're all understood. We're all under the same system, but they have a different part of that system than we do, and we're going to discuss that here in a minute. But I just kind of wanted just to share with you. This is just what the Creator wanted. That's what Scotty and I talk about. It's what Tzedakah is. It's how the Creator wants human beings to treat one another, to uplift the hands of the needy. And that needy can be anywhere. It could be a need, financially need. It could be an emotional need. It can, especially emotional, with a lot of stuff that goes on today. It might be the need that a mother's coming through the door and somebody just needs to hold the door for her or help carry her groceries. Just anything, being human. And sometimes some people look at that, well, that's really simple. But yet, how much today in our society, with all the technology and all the gadgets and the gadgets going on in our lives, how many positive programs are out there talking about getting back to simplicity? And really, that's really simplicity. We've made it complicated. We think having all these extra things will give us more time, and then another gadget that's generally about yay big and it's about that thick takes a lot of our time. The one that hangs on the wall or on the nightstand or wherever you've got it. But anyhow, this system is a system of human conduct. And I wanted to bring this out before we get into the individual aspects, because when we get into the individual aspects and we're studying these laws individually and looking into their depth, there are things you're gonna learn that you didn't know. There's going to be things that may not sit well with you, but that's part of the part of the program. There are rewards and punishments. We'll discuss all of that in the future and how it works. It's not like what some people think. They read something and they think, oh, and then they're out there making these videos and talking about things they don't know what they're talking about. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna look into the hard stuff as well as the fun stuff as we go through these individual commandments that the Creator expects out of us, out of those of us of the nations. The second thing I wanted to bring out is this fact here. There was a divine code of conduct that was, or a divine law is actually the more accurate way of saying it. There's a divine law that was established before man was even created. It's just like being born. When each of us was born into this world, there was an established governmental system before we were born. Before, like here in the, at least here in the United States and in other countries and Australia and others that are here, when you were born, you didn't know that there was a speed limit. You didn't know that there were tax laws. Didn't know there were laws on, on traffic laws, business laws, medical laws. We have a lot of laws in our nations that govern how certain things are operated. There's labor laws. All that was in existence before you even took your first breath. And that is no different than with Adam. Before God breathed into Adam, he set up an established system. It was already there. He didn't create it along the way. It's revealed along the way. The book of Genesis is our primary book. For those of us that are not Jewish, the book of Genesis. And I've been living in Genesis 1 through chapter 9 now for, Scotty, how long? 4 or 5 years? Seems like I can't get past chapter 9. I get to chapter 9 and I'm back to 1:1 again. And then Scotty gets a message early in the morning. Good morning. Hey, guess what I just learned? And that's been going on, 4 or 5 years, right? But there was an established system. Go ahead,
Can I
Scotty.
throw something in there on that, Terry?
Go ahead.
I can always tell when Terry's been up thinking. He started that he's been thinking. Is when he texts me so much, I have to copy it and put it over into one of my reading apps so it will read it to me. And because but it's good. It's always good. But I agree with Terry. It's great to go over and over that, and that's what happens when you're really digging, getting understanding of the text. Go ahead, Terry. I just want to throw that in.
No, that's not a problem there. But no, there was an established system, and we're going to see a little bit we're going to see an example of and maybe a couple of examples of that tonight as we go. And so I wanted you to understand that this is something that just, Genesis is different. It's different than Mount Sinai, but Mount Sinai has an important role to play for us. When you read like the 1, 2, 3s, and actually they're not commandments. The 10 Commandments is not commandments. The word mitzvah is not even there. It is the devarim, this 10 sayings is actually the correct translation. Is 10 sayings, not 10 commandments, because the word commandment is mitzvah. It's sav. That's not even there. It's devarim, the 10 words, the 10 sayings that happen. And we're not going to get all into that, but that's part of a little bit tonight. But there is the 10 sayings of Exodus 20 is built upon what was given in Genesis. And what was given in Genesis is revealed more. There's a few of them that are actually plainly stated. The others are revealed through the relationship between man and man and God. And then there are some that is revealed, in their transgression. And you cannot transgress a law if it doesn't exist. And Hashem willing, next week, my goal is I want to get in and we're gonna look at the situation with Cain's offering and Cain's conversation with the Creator. If I can get all that in 1 week, I will. If not, that'll be a two-weeker on that part there. But this is going to be preempting into that, and then we're going to go from Cain, and we're going to go into the first one we start looking at, what it is and everything, and where it's located. And a lot of times it's located in more than one spot, but we generally have a primary spot that you can go to, which most of y'all already know the primary spot because I've covered it so much. Genesis chapter 2, 16 and 17. Even the Torah sages, all 7 is revealed within the Hebrew of that passage. We won't get into that. That's pretty deep. We'll get into the ones, because the thing about the 7 laws is they're practical. There's nothing mystical. There's nothing deep, because why? They are set up to conduct human relationship and human to God relationship on a very practical basis for the entire world. And it doesn't matter what culture you're in. It fits every culture. It's the most universal system. It fits every human being, whether you live in Georgia, in the United States, or Georgia over in Russia, Europe, or, whether you live in Switzerland, or whether you live in Africa or the Antarctica. All of this system doesn't change. It's the same for all of us. It fits all of our cultures, and we're able to. And the Creator gives us the free will that we can actually mold these commandments in and around our cultures. And that's what makes things, we can beautify them. Let me put it that way. We can beautify these aspects of, like when some people get into different aspects of modesty, and that's different in different nations. You look at the beautiful dress that like some of the Indian people, of India has. Those are some really beautiful outfits. Africa is the same way. And then you've got the different outfits there in Germany and Scotland and different things. And sometimes the cultures express themselves in their dresses. And that's a beautiful thing as well. But my main thing is I wanted to let you know that this is what is in God's mind and that it was established before Adam was even on the earth. Just like when we are born on the earth, there are established laws that we, as we grow up into, they're already there, and we learn and we live by them. So on that point of reestablishment, I wanted to go into I've covered a little bit this before, probably about a year ago, but I wanted to cover it again tonight in the fact of established law, that there's an established divine law. And I love this section. I have covered this. I go back to this a lot, even in my own personal time of reading and studying. And this is, you might want to jot this down in your notes. Genesis chapter 1, verses 11 and 12. Now, granted, before that, there's even stuff that's there, but I wanted to start with this one because there's a good example in here that Rabbi Hirsch gives, showing, and when I was studying it the other day, I hadn't covered that aspect in the past, but when I was looking at it the other day, I thought it was a really good example for tonight. In Genesis chapter 1, verses 11 and 12, I mean, we read the creation week, all of us has read it 100 times and never thought anything about it. But there's more information about what God is doing with his creation beyond just the creation itself, but also the governing of that creation within that what we call a week, the creation week. When we study it, there's so much we can learn. And tonight's a small example of what we have to look forward to. Genesis 1, verse 11. And I'm reading from the Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch commentary on, and he lived in the 1800s. He was a really good rabbi. He's a Torah sage of his own right in Israel. It says, and God said, let the earth sprout vegetation, seed scattering plants, fruit trees bearing fruit according to its species, which has its seeds within it above the earth. And it was so. Verse 12, the earth brought forth vegetation, seed scattering plants according to its species, and tree bearing fruits and seed bearing according to its species. And God saw that it was good. There's a university worth of information given right there in those two verses. Sorry about that, guys. I set that down a little bit loud. Within the 11th verse, we enter the sphere of the organic life. We see the vegetation that sprouts from the soil and the seed-bearing plants and the fruit trees that bear fruit. We learn that all of these countless varieties of creation, if you think about this, the apple trees, the pear trees, the oak trees, the cedar trees, the spruce trees. I mean, the cornstalk, the grapevine, the grass, the thistle, the rose bush, anything you think of in the vegetation realm. And whatever country you're in, you're going to have different vegetations than if you're in the Philippine Islands, you're going to have a lot of different vegetation that we're going to have here in Southeast Tennessee or up in, even in where Veronica lives. I think, Veronica, you live up there where the redwoods are, right? Those trees that reaches up almost to the moon, and they're big enough to drive cars through them. Every one of these, the Creator said that the earth should sprout all this vegetation of these different trees and different plants, the organic life, according to its species. So Rabbi Hirsch says here, we learn that here in this verse 11, we learn that all these countless varieties of creation are governed by one and the same law, the law of kind, the law of species. When I say kind, I mean same kind, not the emotion. The law of species, every one of them. This oak tree that's growing out here in my backyard, it has a heritage to the very first oak tree that sprouted that week. It hasn't changed. The redwoods where Veronica lives, or the palm trees in the islands. All of those are the exact same species that they were created on this very day. They have not changed. That law of species has been locked in. It says, in the varieties of the creation is governed by one and the same law, the law of kind. Each one of them is to work only for its species and to develop only within the circumscribed sphere assigned to its kind, assigned to its species. Meaning, an oak tree cannot grow pine cones. It can't grow grapes or apples. And different oaks have different kind of acorns and different kind of leaves, but they're same oak, but they're all within that same species. By God's word, the earth sprouted vegetation. He is the only one who decreed the law. So we go back to Genesis 1:1. This is where we learn that the Creator himself, the one single entity, the one being, God, is all authority and sovereignty. He is the Creator. He established how his creation is going to work. This was what was on his mind. In all of this phenomena, we see the plant developing to an ever increasing degree of freedom. Means they have the free to grow within their species. They can grow and be everything the Creator was in his mind as the architect, what he wanted them to be. Rabbi Hirsch says, but it is a freedom without arbitrariness. All plant substances and energies operate within a specific fixed limits. The form of each plant is crystallized into a specific predetermined form. This great law, which is made manifest to us in the plant world, governs everything. From the cedar to the hyssop, it rules the minute fibers and the seedlings, even of the giant trees that we talked about that reach toward the skies, all pervading and all embracing. This law allows each individual plant species to develop only within the limits set for it, which echoes from every blade of grass to the tallest cedars, proclaiming the law according to species. We get this from verse 11. Like I said, we're just looking at one area right here. The divine law of species governs the whole organic world. And it is to this law that the divine law given later to Israel refers. And we're going to go over here and look at this in Leviticus Chapter 19. This is an example. In Leviticus 19, I've got two places here. I'll make sure. Yeah, Leviticus 19 and verse 19. Leviticus 19, verse 19. And it says, let me back up here, 22, 20, 19. He says, you shall observe. Now, he's talking to Israel here. He's not talking to us. He's talking to Israel. Although we do have a share in this, which, later we're going to get into when we get into certain laws of that we're going to return back to this later when we get into some certain laws dealing with this straight on. But he tells Israel, says, you shall observe my decree. You shall not mate your animal into another species. You shall not plant your field with a mixed seed, and a garment that which is mixed of combined fibers shall not come upon you. Now, this is to the priestly nation. Now, our part of the law does deal with we are not permitted. It is against divine law to crossbreed species of animals and to cross-graft species of organic. We are not permitted to take a pear and an apple and graft it together. We can take two apples, we can take two pears, take two grapes, but we can't cross species. That's a divine law set in Genesis chapter 1, verse 11 and 12. Now, for us, Israel, they're not only permitted to not do this as we are, they're not permitted to even partake in anything that comes from that. We don't have that restriction. If you don't want to, that's fine. That's fine, but we don't. It's not a sin for us if someone's already cross-grafted, already violated that, and you go to Lowe's and you buy a cherry tree, which was grafted onto another tree that's a different kind of species. You can buy that tree for your yard. You just cannot violate the law of cross-species, organic or animal life. We're not permitted to do that. So we see here, as he's further defining this for Israel, this law already existed before man. He's now going in a little more detail with Israel on this issue. With us, it falls within the laws of the forbidden sexual relations, and also the not taking a limb from a living, eating meat from of a limb taken from a living animal. There's environmental issues that we get from that, and this is one of the environmental issues. So in a couple of areas of our own laws, we get the not cross mixing.
Jerry, can I ask you a question on some of that right there that you just now covered?
Go ahead.
I read an article here, it's been a few years ago, and I tried to find it the last time we were discussing this, and I've got it somewhere in my paperwork here. But that many of the, I'm going to use the word edible, but I'm going to use that loosely, fruits and vegetables that are created by cross grafting, thank you. And number one, a lot of them come out barren.
They are barren. Anything that's violates the divine the divine law of species, the product of that crossing is barren.
And then number two is that it's really not as nourishing as portrayed. It doesn't satisfy what our body actually needs for that food. We don't get any nutrients from it. It may taste good, but it doesn't really.
It loses its. The Creator created it to be within its own species, exactly for what it's supposed to be. It has everything in it that it's supposed to be. We can't do any better than that.
Exactly. And in that same article, it said that actually some of these fruits and vegetables and other things of that nature are actually harmful to our body.
Right. They could be, yes.
So, okay. I just want to throw that in. Thank you, Terry.
He goes on to I just want to share you with a little bit there in Leviticus when he was talking to Israel, and he's bringing out this law of crossbreeding and cross-grafting. It already existed. It wasn't new. It wasn't new. He just didn't come up with that as a new law after Sinai. He designed that law the way it's given to Israel because they're the priestly nation, because it gets into the clothing, which we don't have. We do not have that restriction, which is basically linen and wool. They are not permitted to wear, clothing like linen and wool, organic and animal combination within the, it's called shotness. Within that's a restriction for them. It's not a restriction for us. Our restriction deals with the creation itself when it comes to animals and plant life. It's established in Genesis 11:1 that the earth bring according to its kind. And when we change the kind, we transgress this law. It's not specifically stated, do not do this. A lot of this stuff is revealed to us through relationship and also through when the transgression of that law happens. Again, you cannot break a law if it doesn't exist. So when we read about transgressions in the Torah in Genesis, well, where was the law? It was established before creation. That's why we have to learn to be taught how to study these. The Torah sages in Israel have been studying these words in the original Hebrew spoken to them by God for 3,400 years. And so they are our teachers. They're telling us this is what this says, and Scotty and I, we're a conduit. We're transmitting what we've learned, what we've been taught, to our people, because Israel has been under persecution now for over 2,000 years. And every time they've tried to reach out and teach us what we're supposed to, they got shot at and got hung and got dispersed and this and that. Well, that's not happening now. And that's a part of what's going on toward when we're going to be seeing the third temple built and everything going on is going to be happening, because right now we're at a time period where Israel's getting to be the light to the nations as they were created to be. They're not to be a light unto themselves. They'll be a light unto the nations, because we're all of God's creation, and He created them and separated them to be the teachers and the priesthood nation for us, to teach us what we're supposed to. Because all of us, I grew up speaking English. I didn't grow up speaking Hebrew. I can learn it. I've been learning it. So and we're talking about the biblical Hebrew that goes what they call Lashon Kodesh, the holy tongue. It goes all the way back, to Abraham. He was called an Ivri. That's what Hebrew is in Hebrew. Hebrew in Hebrew is Ivri. So, but anyhow, I just wanted to share how this law pre-existed. Yes, it's recorded in Leviticus 19:19, but it pre-existed all the way back to Genesis 1:11. That's its source. It's its base. And there's all the 7 laws have that. There's a base where we can learn about it. And a lot of times we learn more about the commandments themselves from their transgression and their observance than just the blanket thou shalt not, or thou shalt do, or shall do. You're going to learn more about the divine law from the relationship and how it operates with creation than just a blanket statement. Rabbi Hirsch goes on and says, clearly the Torah considers it crucial that we see the divine lawgiver in the organic life of nature. For the Torah directs our glance toward him at every step that we take in our lives. The Torah considers it crucial that we see the divine lawgiver in the organic life. It's like Rabbi Hirsch has got another writing, this book I've got. It's kind of a fictional book in a way that he wrote, but it's a set of stories to help teach. And it's stories from a rabbi to a student. And he was telling the student was kind of falling away to the ways of the world and kind of getting interested in this religion and that religion and this free society over here and everything. And he tells the student, he says, you need to examine yourself and compare yourself to a blade of grass. I don't know when the last time it was you went outside and maybe looked at a leaf on a tree that's in your yard or a blade of grass and examine yourself with that and see what you can learn. Just meditate what you can learn from it. In all our relationships with the organic world, when we sow and plant, when we work with an animal, when we clothe ourselves in material we derive from the plants and the animals, and even when we eat, we are obligated to preserve an order that will constantly remind us of the law of species. Now, he's talking about Israel here, and he's talking about us as well. Again, Israel is separated from the nations for a specific purpose. Rabbi Hirsch says, he made us human beings in the midst of all living things. That's all of us together. He made every one of us human beings in the midst of all living things. Remember, Adam was brought on the earth at the end of creation. The earth was here, the water was here, the animals were here, the plants was here, everything was here. We were born into a world. Adam was, made into a world with a pre-existing governing system of how that world was to operate. Just like when you and I are born today, we're born into a system that already has laws in place. Now, I'm saying that as an example because not all the laws are good in our situation when it comes to mankind. We do know that, and I hope you do understand that just because it's legal doesn't make it right, and what's not and what's illegal doesn't make it wrong. So man has a way of messing things up, even with the laws. It says he made us human beings in the midst of all other living things, and he made the Jews. He made us Jews. He's talking to his people in the midst of all of mankind, you and I. And he sat down for both man and Jew, mankind, the sons of Noah, and the Jew, the sons of Abraham. They're different through Isaac. He made us Jews in the midst of mankind. He has set down for both of us, man and Jew, the law governing the development of our lives. The laws governing our lives was here before us. He brought us, and then he made them, and he brought all of us into this pre-existing system. The law of God does not begin only with the Jews. It doesn't begin at Mount Sinai like a lot of people think. Well, it's the Ten Commandments. No, that's not where it began. It doesn't begin with them. For already as organic creatures, we are subject to the laws of God. Only within the limits God has drawn for us can we fulfill in our unique mission. Like all other living creatures, only within the confines of the divine law can we attain individual freedom and independence. The whole Torah is the mitzvah of the law of species that was given to man and Israel. And it was given all to Israel at Mount Sinai. Everything came to them. When we read Genesis, that's a product of the Sinai covenant. It didn't always exist. Remember, God spoke this stuff to Moses, guys. The Sinai event happened a little over 2,000 years later. I think sometimes we forget when we pick up Genesis 1:1 or Exodus or Deuteronomy. No, all that is the product of Israel. It was given by God to Moses, and Moses gave it to Israel, which we're going to look at here in just a little bit. This is the product of Sinai. So it was all given to Israel. The divine law was given to all of the world's creatures. Now it's talking about the divine law, as we see that because he brought man into it. It expresses itself in all of its unfree creatures, controlling them automatically: the trees, the animals, the squirrels, the deer, the giraffes. They're unfree because they have a designed instinct built within them. And it is proclaimed to man and the Jew, Israel, so that they should accept it of their own free will. That's the biggie. Everything was already in place. Now we are to accept it with our own free will, and we can reject it with our own free will. But it says, we'll go back here. It says, and it is proclaimed to man and the Jew so that they should accept it upon their own free will to rule over their drives and energies. Through this subordination of the divine law, they fulfill the exalted mission of their species. God needs in his household the household of the world, his world, the blade of grass as well as the cedar and the ear of corn, as well as the grapes of the vine. He has given to each of it his own law. Within each one of them, it is to live its own appointed life without questioning why is it that a blade of grass is not a cedar or an ear of corn, not a grapevine. Each leaves the planning of the world to God, and it's happy to make its own contribution to the whole. In the same manner, God also needs in his kingdom, the kingdom of his world, both the Jew and the non-Jew. The Jews and the non-Jews each has an assigned mission and his own law. And God's sublime purpose will be attained only if each one, the Jew and the non-Jew, will fulfill the mission and obey the law that God has assigned to them. Through the performance in this duty, he will make the contribution that is required for him and for the common good. Now, like it said, someone said, well, it's supposed to be one law. It is one law. Well, how is this one law? When the Creator says, fear God and keep my commandments, most of us, well, that's a commandment of God. I'm going to keep that. This is the reason why we need to be educated, because even the laws of God that was given to Israel wasn't for every Jew. See, he's given us an example before us in the whole world. You see, within Israel, there were 12 tribes. Within Israel, there are priests and there are Levites. And someone that was born, let's say, an average Jew in the tribe of Gad, and he comes to Jerusalem for one of the feast days. Oh, there's a commandment of God. Oh, the altar's got to be cleaned off. Well, I'm going to run up there and clean it off because that's a commandment of God. He'll do that if he wants to die, because that's not his job. Is it God's commandment? Yes, but it's God's commandment to the priesthood, to the Levites, and to the Kohanim to fulfill the duties of the temple. An average Jew cannot run in the temple and do the duties of the temple. That's not their job, but it is a commandment of God. You've got to know your place. There are commandments for men. There are commandments for women. There are commandments for the Kohanim, the priests. There are commandments for the Levites. See, even though Moses and Aaron were brothers, there are certain things that Moses and Aaron, Moses couldn't do that Aaron was given. Moses could never be the high priest. Only the sons of Aaron. See, so yeah, all this was commandments that were given, but you've got to know which one is yours. And that's the same thing with us. And ours is given pre-Sinai. That's the 7 categorical laws. I'll just name them. The prohibition of idolatry, the prohibition, and I'm just doing the prohibition part because it's easy to name them like this. Prohibition of idolatry, the prohibition of blasphemy, prohibition of murder, prohibition of theft, prohibition of forbidden sexual relations, the prohibition of eating meat taken from a living animal, And then the positive one is to set up courts of justice, that these 6 shall be, done justly and obeyed according to their laws and their depths. And those are the categories. And I say categories, they go deep. It's not only 7. When you get done, there's been estimated somewhere maybe 200, 230 things that we are obligated to as the non-Jewish people. Now, why do I say that Israel has the right to tell us to do this? Why is Israel the ones that I put a book up. Let me grab it real quick. Wasn't going to use this one, but now that as I'm going is coming to a close here, and it's, I'm not giving you proverbial preacher close. We're going to do it 3 or 4 times. So why do we listen to Israel? Here's the reason why we listen to Israel. In Exodus chapter 19, Exodus 19 and verse 9. And it says that, that Hashem, God said to Moses, the Creator said to Moses, behold, I come to you in the thickness of a cloud, so that the people, when we're talking about the people, we're talking about anywhere estimates of almost man, woman, and children, somewhere around 3 million. I think I've heard that number. Behold, I come to you in the thickness of the cloud, so that the people will hear as I speak to you. They're going to hear the Creator speak to Moses. Why? They will hear as I speak to you, and they will believe in you forever. That hasn't changed, folks. The people of Israel, the descendants today, who we call the Jewish people, heard God speak to Moses, and God himself, the Creator, said this. Moses didn't say this. Aaron didn't say this. God himself says they will believe in you forever because they heard me speak to you. Nothing can replace that. Nothing. Nowhere in the scriptures does it say that God spoke to anyone else in front of millions of people, a national realization that they may believe in that person forever. This is the only time it happened, right here. And if anybody says anything different, you're coming against God, because God said that Israel would believe in Moses forever. Now, that being said, in the tradition, in Pirkei Avos, the teachings of the fathers, chapter 1, the chain begins. Moses received the Torah from Sinai, from the Creator. He handed it down to Yehoshua, to Joshua, and Joshua to the elders, and the elders to the prophets. And then he handed it down to the men of the great assembly. And I won't keep going on there, but this is when the chain came. God spoke to Moses in front of the people, so they believed in him forever. Then he took it and he received it. When you read it in the Torah, and he handed it to Israel and everything. But before they crossed over, Moses spoke, he says he handed it down to Joshua. And then Joshua handed it to the elders. Then the elders handed it to the prophets, and the prophets handed it to the men of the great assembly, which was 120 great men, which included men like Ezra and Nehemiah Jeremiah. They were part of the men of the great assembly. And so we have this chain today. Scotty and I know rabbis today that are direct descendants from these men of the great assembly. We've met them. And these men received it from the prophets and from the elders all the way up to Moses, this unbroken chain of the Torah. That's why we believe in this. That's why we know that when Israel tells us that your obligation before the Creator is this, we can trust that because it was handed down. So the authority of the Noahide covenant is established in Genesis chapter 9. The covenant's established in Genesis 9 with God and Noah. But at Mount Sinai, the authority, when God restated in, excuse me, when he reaffirmed the covenant with Noah, with Moses, the authority of that covenant now comes under Moses, under the Sinai covenant, the authority of it, the authority of learning it. And for Israel to be the light unto the nations, part of that is telling us what our covenant is with God. No difference than when a man who is of the tribe of Judah, who is a Cohen, who is a priest within that tribe, is teaching his son, this is your duties before God. No different from that. I've got a friend of mine in New Jersey. He's a Levite. And he was taught his duties as a Levite. He's been told if the temple is built within our day, which we hope it is, he will be given duties. He goes, I will be leaving. He was born and raised just outside of Jerusalem. He goes, I will be leaving and they will be giving me my specific duties. I might be carrying poles or moving stones. I don't know what I will be doing, but I will be doing the job of a Levite in the workings of the temple. Now, Scotty and I've got other Jewish friends that are your everyday person. They have businesses, they have farms. They don't have those duties. But what they do have is the laws of if you're a farmer in the land of Israel, you have the law of tithing of the produce. The law of tithe it's the produce of the land of Israel. If you're a businessman, you learn the business laws. If you're a doctor, you learn the medical laws. Everybody has their laws, their commandments that God expects from them. And then we're no different. We're the rest of humanity. We're not Israel, but we still are obligated to observe codes of human conduct that was created and given in the creation week. So I just wanted to bring this out as a beginning into our studies of the 7 laws. This was the mind of God. This was the mind of God. He just wants us to live a human lives. He would like for us to choose to live by those things which was here before we got here, before Adam got here. That's why we can't bulk against them. It's not like God created them along the way. And you'll say, well, it was like this yesterday, but now it's different. No, that didn't happen. If any time you read in the book of Genesis that there was a law that was transgressed, well, where did it state it? It means it was already there. We were expected to look into creation and understand, because see, our laws are practical. Theft and murder, forbidden sexual relations, right there in Genesis chapter 11, 1:11, God created according to species and how they were to live. Come on, guys, think about it. God made man and woman. Man and woman made a baby. That follows the law of species. That's why Rabbi Hirsch says all of the laws revert back to the law of species in their kind. And so we're going to, like I said, we're going to look deeper next week. Like I said, Hashem willing, we're going to take a look at Cain, because we're going to look at the offering because a lot of people there's been a lot of messages, not really what happened messages. We're going to look at that, and we're going to look at what caused the conversation between God and Cain. What did God say? Because it talks about sin a little bit there, and I want to discuss a little bit about that before we got into the exact laws. So that would be either a 1 or a 2 week class on the issue there with Cain, and I'm really looking forward to that. Scotty?
All right, Terry.
Any questions, anything? I know I went on, but I wanted to cover this, and I didn't want to go real long on it.
There were 2 things that came up conversational wise, not really questioning wise, but conversational wise, is, of course, the first one was the law of species, staying in your kind, in looking at that, and then, but I think we covered all of that. And the other thing was, people kindly imagined that there was a conversation going on, but I thought the and I'm going to say it like they said it, and the Bible was giving to the world, and then of course I told them, we're discussing Torah here, and they said, well, I thought Torah or 10 Commandments, and I guess it came up because you said the 10 sayings was given to the world.
No, they were given to Israel strictly. This is going to be one of those hard things.
As you're covering that, what cue do we have that it was given to Israel?
I'm fixing to go over there.
Okay.
If you'll give me a second. If we'll go to Exodus chapter 20 together. Let's go to Exodus chapter 20. That's what's interesting is this falls. Never mind. I ain't going to go there. Exodus chapter 20. Exodus chapter 20. I have here, this was a gift that my mother gave me before she passed away. I have here your standard listing of the 10 Commandments. Please do not get offended by this, but I need to say it this way. Please do not get offended and get mad. I'm asking you to just give me some room here, okay? This is what I call the Christian 10 that you're going to find in most worship service or houses of worship. Why do I say it that way? What is the first one? What's listed is the first one. I'll just read it to you. You must not have any other gods before me. Right? Is that where this starts?
Yeah.
On the placards. That's only half. The very first part of that commandment is left off. And this is where we learn that this is not given to the nations. This was given to Israel. In verse 1, it says, and God spoke all these statements, the Devarim, not commandments, these sayings. He said, God spoke all these statements saying, I am Hashem your God, who has brought you out of the land of Egypt and from the house of bondage. You shall not recognize. This is where the placards pick up. The very first part of this, I am Hashem your God, who has taken you out of the land of Egypt and from the house of bondage. Folks, he didn't do the nations. He only done one nation, and that was Israel. He is speaking to the descendants of Abraham through Isaac and Jacob. He's speaking to them. He's not speaking to you and me. See, part of learning to study the Torah is to know also who is God speaking to. And so the 10 Commandments is spoken to Israel. It's part of their covenant. I heard one rabbi actually state that the 10 Commandments in themselves as just one entity cannot stand without the 7 laws. Because within the 7 laws, you have the commandment to establish a judicial court system to uphold law. And that is not it within that. It's not within the 10. So I thought that was very interesting. He's a very, very well popular international famous rabbi that's really, really good. And so the 10 Commandments are Israel's. No, the Torah was not given to the world. Psalms chapter 147, verse, I want to say 19 on that one, where it says that God gave all the decrees and all of the commandments, and I'm paraphrasing, to Jacob, which is Israel. And he did not do so to any other nation. Scotty, did you look that up?
Tell me the chapter.
Psalms 147.
147. Hold on.
I want to say it's like 19. It's right toward the end.
Hold on 1 minute. 147.
I took 2 weeks off. Enjoyed the beach.
There. Almost there. 147. And you don't know what verse it is?
It's toward the end.
Toward the end. He hath not dealt so with the nations.
Yeah, go on up before that. So he declares his word unto Jacob.
Exactly. He has declared his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his ordinances unto Israel.
And finish it up.
He hath not dealt so with any nation, and as far as his ordinances, they have not known them.
We haven't known them.
Yeah.
So that's why we go to Israel to learn what his ordinances and decrees are that's pertaining to us.
You know, I hear a lot of people, Terry, and I'm saying this delicate, okay? I'm saying this delicate.
It's hard sometimes when you're dealing with subjects like this.
It is. And before I say it, I don't mean any offense to anybody. But there are many people who have not a connection with Israel that say that they can read and gather their own intellectual information and understanding from the text.
You know what that's like, don't you?
Let's hear
That's
it.
like being your own lawyer in a court case.
Oh, wait a minute. Now there's something that says, you're a fool if you're your own lawyer. No, I'm not going to throw that in there. So,
no, but you know,
I
there's
agree.
there's advertisements that's similar to that, even on the radio, you know, where they're telling people, please don't represent yourself because you don't know all the laws.
Right.
And that's when someone says that I can pick the Bible up and I can understand it. You're being your own lawyer.
Yeah.
And you're going to get yourself in trouble. I mean, I don't even do that. I have questions. You know, I've got who I call Noahide elders. I've got a couple guys that I highly respect that are, you know, 20, 30 years my senior in studying this. And then I've got my Jewish rabbis and friends who was born and raised in it, in the language that when I've got questions, just the other day I sent Pesach a question. I'm saying, okay, I need help me see if I'm understanding this correctly, because I can't make anything that I've said tonight, anything I say in the future, I do not say of my own self, my own understanding. I do not have my own understanding when it comes to the Torah. I have to get that from the priest. That's the way God ordained it. That's why he gave it. That's why he spoke to Moses. They will believe in you, Moses, forever. And that's why, you know, what we say in Hebrew, because there's certain aspects of Hebrew I love, we say Moshe Rabbeinu, Moshe our teacher. And he's our teacher. And then he handed it off. And then there's a chain that's been going on for 3,400 years from the day that God gave it to Moses, Moses gave it to Israel. And so, but no, he did not give this to the world. I'm going to be honest with you, within the historical teachings, I'm going to put it this way, within the historical teachings of Israel that dates back thousands of years, it says that the Creator did offer this to the world and they rejected it. And only Israel received it. Matter of fact, that was in part of our passage tonight. I've done moved my thing. Leviticus chapter 19. I think it was verse 18. We go back over here. Oop, went too far. Going back to Leviticus chapter 19. Still in 18. Down 19. Where is it at? Oh, maybe I was wrong. No, it wasn't Leviticus 19. Sorry about that, guys. It was right here in Exodus chapter 19. I got a lot of 19s going on tonight.
Yeah.
Okay, in Exodus chapter 19, in verse 8, it says, the entire people responded together and says, everything that Hashem has spoken, we shall do. That's when they said yes to the covenant. And so we learned from them. And then that's when Moses, or God says, I'm going to come to Moses in a cloud in front of the whole people, the whole congregation. And I'm going to speak to you, and they're going to hear me speak to you. And thus that will put their faith in you. It's emunah. The Hebrew word is emunah. Their faith in you, which is more than what faith is in English, but they will put their faith in you forever. That's why these strange religions and any of the religions out there trying to convert the Jews to be Muslim and Hindus and all of those kind of things. And they can't do it. The reason why is because Moses doesn't back that. And the ones who do convert doesn't know what Moses, the law of Moses. That's just plain and simple. Those that know Moses as their teacher, you can't budge them. And so I wanted to get into this because when we get into these laws, this is where the authority comes from. The authority today comes from Mount Sinai, from Moses.
Yeah. All right. This conversation could take us into many positions.
I know.
And we're not here to
we're not here to convert or do anything. We're just teachers.
Exactly.
We're just teachers sharing what we've been taught.
If I can put this truth in to the mix, my grandmother always told me, and I've mentioned this many times, that when you're studying, if you study, even though there's a lie going around, if you will study the truth, you won't have to reveal the lie. The lie will reveal itself. And that's what Terry and I do here, and others that are here have similar. Veronica has Simply Noahide, a Facebook page. I want to plug that page while I'm here, Veronica. And there are others that are simply trying to spread truth. And when you read the truth, there are some questions that will come into you because, you
should question.
Huh?
And you should question.
Yes. We get conditioned to the lie, but that doesn't make it truth. But when you read the truth, there are some questions that come up. The lie don't like to be questioned, but the truth loves to study with questions. So that's as far as I want to take that, because I don't want to get into religious bashing,
No, we don't do that. No, we do not do that.
Yeah.
There's others out there that get off on that. We are to show compassion upon all humanity, no matter where anybody's at.
And if you ask us, our goal is not to change your religion, but to reveal to you the truth. The truth has no religion.
Right. Yeah. What we are wanting to do is reveal this code of human conduct that was established before man was on the earth.
Right.
In Genesis chapter, that's in the book of Genesis. That's a big part. And I know y'all, some of you that may, be first time hearing us and you're hearing terms you've never heard before, specifically the word Noahide. Don't It's not a religious term. It's a modern, I call it a modernizational term. It comes from the word B'nai Noah, which is in the scripture. And B'nai Noah means the children or family of Noah. And those of us that are here on the earth, every human being on the earth is a child and a product of Noah. So therefore we are all B'nai Noah. And so we're the children of Noah. And that Noahide, that's just all that is. I call it a modern term. It's actually been around for several hundred years because rabbis have been using it for quite a while now. But it just means that we are the children of Noah. We have that designation now because Israel, they're the Jews. We call them the Jews today, because that's just a modern term for Israel. It'll probably revert back to Israelite when everything is said and done. But there is a separation between what we call the children of Noah and the children of Abraham, which is through Isaac and Jacob, are the Israel, the nation of Israel. Jacob's name was changed to Israel, so his children are Israel. Well, today they go by the name of Judah because of things that happened a couple thousand years ago. But we won't go into that. Okay. So if that's a new name, a new word for you, just understand that it's not a religious designation. It's a physical designation.
Right.
It's a physical designation of who your ancestry is. Noah is our patriarch.
Right. All right. Well, Terry, we're almost to an hour and a half.
I know. I wasn't going to go that long, but
it was good. It was good. I'm
trying to cut these down further, a little bit shorter and shorter, and hopefully I'll get better at that.
They're good. I'm going to ask Amuela to do me a favor. Amuela, honey, if you'll run over, if it's okay with Veronica, and grab her Facebook page, simply Noahide, and stick that in the chats on the other links, if you would, just so if they want to go. Is that okay, Veronica? We'll plug that and y'all go over there. And it's not we always say the true pages are not a debatable. It's not up for debate. It's just in there to give information. And Veronica always puts some great information on.
And sometimes we get in some good discussions and questions like, things that happens in life.
Yeah.
This happened at work the other day. How would be a godly way of handling this?
Yes.
And that's what we talk a lot about is the godly life.
Yeah.
And handling life situations.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to bring us to a close as Amuela does that. Those of you listening on Power Faith Radio, I didn't do it tonight, but I'm going to do it now. Broadcasting from the foothills of the Great Smoky Mountains of East Tennessee, you're listening to Power Faith Radio. I think I missed my calling. I should have been a radio announcer.
You should have been a DJ.
And so we appreciate you joining us through Power Faith Radio. Those of you that are listening to us tonight via a simple walk, maybe you're not listening to the live stream, but you're watching the recording. We want to thank you so much. And please put some comments in there, ask some questions, and we'll try to guide those over to Terry. Also, B'nai Noah Fellowship, same thing there. If you got some questions, put them in the chat. Even if you're watching this in the future, put them in the chat. We'll get notifications of those, and we'll pass those on to Terry. And those of you listening by South Carolina Noahide, please do the same. And Outreach Noah YouTube channel. We would greatly appreciate any and all people that can. If you haven't done it yet, go over there and subscribe to Outreach Noah YouTube channel. Hit that notification bell that you'll be notified every time a new video goes up. And as I said tonight, please look for Simply Noahide with Veronica Port, and she does a great job over there, and we greatly appreciate her. Now, there was a lot of people listening that came in and out on the YouTube and Facebook pages, and I want to apologize. I'm still working on the bit rate streaming, and so I'm hoping to get that right here pretty soon. When I get that right, there won't be any lag. as we broadcast, but sometimes there may be a little lag and a couple of seconds behind, and it may buffer every once in a while. We apologize for that. Thank you for staying with us, sticking with us, and holding on. And we're trying our best to get that fixed. And without further ado, Terry, are you through? Did you see I done that rhyme again? I'm on a road tonight. My wife better watch out. I'm on a road tonight. So, all right, everybody. Thank you again, Ronald. And I started mentioning my name. I started saying, because I'm reading Ronald and Scotty and Wendell and David and Veronica and Thomas and Amuel and Karen came in. She was over on the YouTube channel, and she came over to be with us, and my wife, Annie, and as always, Terry Hayes. Thank you all so much for being with us tonight. I'm going to go ahead and close out the live stream. We'll see you next week right here. Bye-bye.